I wake up every morning a happy man, as poor as a church mouse, but a happy man. I'm like a big child, so yeah, I go out to play every day, and I basically get my hands in the dirt. People have forgotten where we come from. I mean, no one even knows the next door neighbours. Kids growing up today don't know where their vegetables come from, they don't know how they're grown, they haven't got a clue. As a child, life was brilliant. My father got me out gardening. He was disabled in a wheelchair, so he'd have me out gardening when I was 6. He had me mowing the lawn when I was 7, cutting the hedges with dangerous shears, and life was wonderful. I travelled a lot. I went to India 6 times, Thailand twice in a 10-year period. In fact, I spent 2.5 years of my life in India. The last time I spent 6 months in India, I actually developed a drug habit. I took opium. I always said I'd never take it, but living in a cave in northern India, it was very easy, just take a little bit, eat for breakfast. I travelled back. Whilst I was actually coming back on the plane, I was really ill. Well, I thought I was ill. I thought I had typhoid or yellow fever and so on. When I got back to Heathrow, they immediately rushed me to the Tropical Diseases Hospital, fearing that I had some terrible disease, and so did I. Once being checked over in the hospital, I realised that I had a habit. They said to me, had I taken any opiates? And I then said yes, and then they laughed and said, right, well, Mr. Pulford, I think you've developed sort of an opiate habit. Unfortunately, that was the start of it. I got a taste for it, and when I came back to England, lots of things went wrong in my life, which in turn, then I started taking opiates, and that was the beginning of the end for me. And over a several-year period, like most people, I ended up living on the street, as in having lost everything, losing my self-respect, and ended up living in shop doorways. My life changed when I met a wonderful lady called Penny, who's since passed away. She was a street cat worker that would walk the streets looking for people that were sleeping on the streets, and she'd known me for over 2 years and was always trying to get me into a hostel, but I didn't want to. I was very, very depressed, and I didn't need her help. Then one Christmas, after spending Christmas at Crisis at Millennium Dome, I think in 2003, I met Penny there, and she offered me a room in a hostel, which I then took. It was a very cold winter, and that was when, once I was in the hostel, with a nice warm bed in a room, that was the beginning of the end of my addiction, and that's when I embarked on a journey to get myself back together again. One day I was laying in bed at night and was thinking what really used to make me happy. When was the most happiest times of my life? And I remembered as a kid, as a child, working with my father in the garden, and that made me realise that I had to get back into gardening again. And the courtyard of the hostel was just a concrete jungle where the dogs used to go to the toilet. So I immediately started to build a garden. I built a garden I'd trawl the skips and bring back scaffold boards and pieces of wood. I bashed boxes together. Everybody in the hostel thought I was mad, and they used to take the piss out of me and what you doing building boxes. And I said, well, you'll see. Once I completed the boxes, the management at the hostel saw what I'd done, and then they gave me the money to buy soil. I bought soil, and started planting seeds, and that was the start of it. By that point, other members of the hostel started to come out to help. Within a month we had a small gardening team and we produced our first vegetables in the courtyard of the hostel. The garden that I built, which is a wildlife garden, which is vegetables and herbs, we entered it in the Tower Hamlets in Bloom competition, and it got second prize in Best Wildlife Garden, which was brilliant. And then I continued then to start a gardening club, which is running very successfully today.
What's your day? Hello, mate. You all right? Yep. Yeah, cool.
Paul's an amazing fella, really. I've got a lot of time for him. He's got a passion for wildflowers that's insatiable. He's got a heck of amount of energy. He's got a lot of enthusiasm. He's really dedicated to spreading the word of wildlife and gardening for it, or creating opportunities for wildlife as well as food growing throughout Tower Hamlets. And he's been able to replicate what we've done here at Providence Row and other places in the borough, as well as use his own imagination to bring to life his own projects.
We've got Elkinet here. That one, that's a wonderful little tiny blue flowers, but got amazing amounts of honey, just in nectar, just in that tiny little flower. Again, fennel, poppies, corn marigolds, again from our cornfields, absolutely beautiful.
Just to see for those 3 or 4 years someone just come from the streets and now teaching and leading other people is, it kind of makes the whole job seem worth it. You kind of think of homeless people being on bums and dropouts. You couldn't be further from the truth. It's a huge inspiration to me, to the organisation and to our other service users. I think just Paul's independence and flair and motivation has really kind of added to the culture of our organisation. Chelsea Flower Show, we were approached by the Homeless Link, which is a national organisation for homelessness, sort of raising standards and campaigning for them. They kind of emailed me asking whether I'd be interested in working at Chelsea. And it was a bit of a silly question, really. Of course we do. So we jumped on that, told Paul. I think his head nearly split open. He was so excited by it.
4 years ago I was living on the streets. 4 years later I was with a gardening team winning a silver medal at the Chelsea Flower Show. I've actually got 3 allotments 2 minutes away from Liverpool Street Station at Bishopsgate Square, and it's great because all the suits, all the thousands of office workers that see me working on the garden, they all love it. They always tell me it's great for them to come out and see things grow rather than just your average boring contemporary gardens with roses and geraniums and so on. They've actually got wildflowers and herbs and vegetables which they can actually see growing as they look out their office windows. Tonight I'm running an after-school club for kids, which is called our Wildlife Gardening Club, which is absolutely wonderful because all the kids that come, they're all 6 to 11 year olds. Majority of them live in tower blocks, concrete jungles. They've never touched the earth, they've never planted anything, they've never seen a worm, never seen a snail, scream if they see them. There's nothing more beautiful than giving them a seed or giving them a young vegetable plant to put into the ground. It's really empowering for them to see it grow. This generation and generations of hundreds of years now haven't cared about, haven't thought about, and have just set about destroying through total ignorance and greed. Just them wanting to take, like everybody takes on this planet, and no one gives anything back. But it's the kids of today are the ones that are going to change the planet around if it does happen.